Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to day 3 of the Mission and Installation Contracting Command Advanced Planning Briefing to Industry, or APBI. My name is Louis Trinidad and I am the Director of the MICC Office of Small Business Programs and your MC for today's event. The APBI will address a variety of topics helpful in preparing American small businesses to invest the time to complete for Army contracting opportunities. Today's APBI is being conducted only on the Microsoft Teams platform and is the only small business outreach event forecasting Army acquisition needs executed by the MICC for the year. Next slide, please. Please take a moment to review the rules of engagement for this week's event. You do have the opportunity to ask questions in the Microsoft Teams live chat. There is a small chat icon located in the navigation bar of the Teams window for submitting questions. As today's audience size does not permit adequate time for answering all questions submitted through the chat, they will be captured and answered in the coming days before being posted to sam.gov. Next slide, please. Today's agenda will begin with opening remarks by the MICC Fort Eustis Director located at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and the Office of Small Business Programs Assistant Director. The rest of the day, you will hear from MICC contracting officers as they present requirements from each of their individual locations. All requirements briefed today will be sent to event attendees at the end of our event, and a full 3-year detailed acquisition forecast will be posted to sam.gov. As mentioned before, you have the opportunity to ask questions on Microsoft Teams. Also, please be as descriptive as possible. For example, include the slide number, title of the slide, requirement, etc. Providing the slide number allows us to quickly navigate to that slide and be prepared to answer your question. You may also provide written questions to us via email after this event. The details on how to submit questions are posted in today's chat. Included in today's presentations are 2 10-minute breaks, so please be mindful of the schedule. Next slide. We will begin this morning with a presentation from Ms. LaTosha McCoy, the MICC Fort Eustis Director. FDO Fort Eustis is dedicated to delivering ready, decisive, and synchronized business solutions to the Training and Doctrine Command, Installation Management Command, tenant organizations, and units through its 10 subordinate contracting office. Ms. McCoy, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you, Louis. Again, I'm LaTosha McCoy. I'm the MICC Fort Eustis Director, and I will be briefing you today. Next slide, please. So here outlined is the FDO's mission, vision, and operation priorities. And if you heard Ms. Harris talk, the FDO director, on Monday, she basically said our mission is providing the necessary contracting support to enable the Army to effectively train and sustain its forces around the world. Next, you have our vision, our operation priorities, which are aligned with the Secretary of the Army, Army Material Command, Army Contracting Command, and of course, MICC. Our priorities are people first, readiness, and modernizing for the future. Next slide, please. So if you focus your attention on the far right side of the slide, which illustrates the FDO's area of responsibility. You have our 11 installation offices, which includes the MICC Fort Eustis Contracting Center, home here at TRADOC, where victory starts here. So I had to put that in there. Next slide, please. So FDO Eustis has 2 major mission partners. They are TRADOC and their MCON. In supporting TRADOC, we provide trained soldiers and leaders to the operational force. We support the Aviation Center of Excellence by training all the Army's rotary and fixed-wing pilots, and support of the Combined Arms Center, improving Army commanders through real-world training. In our support of MCOM, the FDO installation offices are aligned with the local garrison commanders to provide acquisition planning and oversight. In terms of contract support, we provide base operations, construction, installation, infrastructure support, and custodial, just to name a few. Next slide. So this slide here depicts the migration of workload from the FDO installation offices to the Fort Eustis Contracting Center. The primary customers of the contracting center, of course, are TRADOC and MCOM, but also under that umbrella is the Combined Arms Center, Futures Command, and the Army Training Information Systems. Again, just to name a few, but not everybody that's under that umbrella. All the pre-award actions that are over 15 million is migrated to the center to award and then migrated back to the local offices for them to administer. Another image that you get from the slide, you get to see how dispersed the actual offices are. Next slide. Ooh, so thank you for your time this morning. I know that was quick. I hope you are looking forward to the requirements that's going to be briefed today. Just remember, we are committed to partnering with industry. I truly believe the more information we provide to you in advance, the better the solutions you can present in the future. So thank you and have a blessed day. And Lewis, I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Joining us next is Mr. Chris Noah, the Office of Small Business Programs Assistant Director at FDO Fort Eustis. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lois. Good morning. My name is Chris Noah, and I am the MICC OSBP Assistant Director for the FDO Eustis, located at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Next slide, please. Today, I will be discussing the following items, introducing you to the MICC OSBP FDO Eustis office, who we support, where the small business professionals are located, some information about the MICC OSBP website, and answer any question that you may have. Next slide. Our mission within the MICC Office of Small Business Program is to advocate for small business participation in government contracting. We serve as the senior advisors to the acquisition team on small business procurement matters, such as assisting the contracting officers with market research, development of acquisition strategies, recommending small business set-asides when market research supports it, serving in such selection boards when it is appropriate to ensure that small businesses are provided the maximum opportunity to participate in federal contracts at both the prime and the subcontracting levels. We also provide one-on-one and group training on small business topics to government personnel. Next slide. The FDO Eustis supports 11 contracting offices across the country. Although all the small business professionals are physically located here at Fort Eustis, Virginia, we still provide small business support to all the FDO Eustis offices. This slide shows the assigned small business professional for the offices under the FDO Eustis umbrella. Next slide. The next two slides cover some things that small business should be aware of when they are doing business with the government. I won't go over all of them, but I do want to highlight a few of them. I'm sure many of you are new to government contracting. I recommend meeting with your local Apex POCs. This is formerly known as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or PTACs, as one of your first steps. This is a free resource, and Apex accelerators can really help you with some of the things on this slide and much more, such as assisting you in registering in SAM.gov, which is required before you can even receive a federal contract, helping you drive your first capability statement if you're new to government contracting, and provide you with other pertinent information about doing business with the government. Also, if you're new to government contracting, I recommend using this resource before setting up any appointment with your small business professional. We are here to help you navigate the MICC procurement process, the federal contracting process, and you can also utilize the small business website provided on this slide to set up appointment with the assigned small business professional for a particular office. Next slide. To get the most out of your meeting with a small business professional, I recommend doing your homework and research on the agency, location, the type of requirement that they buy, before you schedule a meeting with a small business professional. This will help ensure that you are ready for the meeting. Don't ask us for procurement sensitive information because we can't give that out. but you can be as specific as possible with your questions or inquiries about a particular requirement. Be open to feedback from the small business professional, take notes, and follow up with a phone call or email when necessary. Next slide. FDO-Eustis contracting offices do have some requirements that have to be procured through a mandatory source. An example of this is our information technology requirements, which are procured utilizing the CHESS website in accordance with Army Regulation 25-1. There are also requirements that are part of the Ability One program list, and the contracting officers must continue to utilize that federal program to fulfill those needs. Federal Prison Industries is also a mandatory source for supply. As long as that specific supply item is on the APBI listing, we have to utilize that source to fill that need. This slide also provides Department of Defense activity address codes for all the FDOs used to subordinate contracting offices. These codes are important because they can assist you in your research for contract opportunities in SAT.gov. Next slide. This slide provides the web address for the MICC OSBP site. On this website, you can find relevant information on the MICC Small Business Program, including a guidebook on how to do business with the government, what is required when you are submitting a capability statement to the government, some information on overseas contracting opportunities, a biannual acquisition forecast that you can find future opportunities, and some information about small business contracting regulations and policies. This website is a good resource for you to have, and I highly recommend navigating the website. Just take a look at the available information on the site. The site also provides the contact email of all the small business professionals assigned to the MICC contracting offices across the country, not just for the FDO-Eustis. Next slide. We will be answering questions throughout this event utilizing the Microsoft Team chat function, as Lois mentioned, but also feel free to email your question to the email address presented on this slide. Every question and answer will be posted on SAM.gov for wide dissemination. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for participating in this event and have a great day. Back to you, Lois.
Thank you, Chris. Next slide, please. We are ready to kick things off with presentations from our various offices at MICC FDO Fort Eustis, but first, please read the following disclaimer regarding today's presentations. The information we provide today reflects things as we know them today. Information and details may change as the acquisition process moves forward. Next slide. We'll begin our requirement briefing from the MICC Fort Eustis office, followed by Fort Rucker. Kicking it off is a contracting officer presenting information on the Mission Command Training Program requirement. Next slide.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shana McKeel, and I am the Business Operations Division Chief here at MICC Fort Eustis. I am not actually a contracting officer on any of these requirements. However, I am happy to provide information for those points of contact once the industry day has concluded. First up is MCTP. This is a in-process requirement. The draft RFP actually closes on Friday. If you do a quick search on sam.gov for MCTP, it pops right up. They have already received lots of questions. As many of you guys know, their mission is to support realistic, stressful training for the Army forces at all levels of the Army. Their mission is directed by the Chief of Staff of the Army and to provide trained and ready units to win decisively on the modern battlefield. They have already determined that this is going to be re-procured on an unrestricted basis, and the team that's working MCTP has already held 2 industry days last fall. So if this is a requirement that you're interested in, it is fast moving, and I would look for an RFP in the summer. Next slide. Next up is our Maneuver Battle Lab. This is actually an Army Futures Command requirement. They are a separate command from TRADOC, just an update on the slide. We just received the package for this last week, so it is actually behind. MICC Fort Benning will be engaging with Futures Command on extensions as the current contract is going to end this summer. I spoke with the contracting officer yesterday. They are hoping to have an award by the end of the calendar year in 2023. They are currently coordinating market research and are anticipating it remaining a GSA OASIS Pool 1 requirement. So if you are in GSA OASIS Pool 1, keep an eye on this probably in early summer. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, apologies, slides got switched up. The TRADOC ALEC Events Language Enhancement course. This is separate from the other language contracts that you may be familiar with Fort Eustis procuring. It's online self-study and facilitated instruction. And it also requires 508 compliant. As you can see from the dates here, we are looking at a FY24 package, likely getting it in the spring. Next slide. All right, TRADOC OE Core. This is another recurring large requirement that we have been procuring for TRADOC for several years. The OE environment is a composite of conditions, circumstances, and influences that affect the employment of military forces and bear on the decisions of the unit commander. Basically, OE Core is playing the red team and working to see how the future force of the Army will fit into the enemy. There's three pieces of that: the permissive environment, the uncertain environment, and the hostile environment. We are expecting a package possibly this summer, more likely early FY24. So I would say that the sources sought and an individual requirement industry day will likely be in the fall. As always, sam.gov will have all of the information. Next slide. All right, advanced helicopter flight training. We are recompeting this requirement early due to additional support required for student instruction. We just received the package from TRADOC, so all of our milestones are to be determined. The Aviation Center is to provide the Army with professionally trained aviators and non-rated crew members through planning, coordinating, and executing formal flight instruction. The contractor will support flight training, balance training, and we also support NATO students as well as foreign military students. As I said, we just got the package on this. They have not even held a kickoff meeting yet. So I would look for a sources sought, probably being posted within the next 30 days, and then an individual requirement industry day occurring probably May, June timeframe. Next slide. All right. Our Defense Language Institute Washington, DLIW, will be recompeted in winter 2024 for award in winter 2025. DLI Washington provides culturally based foreign language education, training, evaluation, and sustainment to enhance the security of the nation here and abroad. This is separate from DLI that might be out at Monterey. So we are focused on the Washington metro area. They train over 900 students annually in approximately 60 languages. For those of you that are familiar, the last contract had a new strategy. That strategy is working fantastically. So we are anticipating repeating that in the next round. I would say second quarter of fiscal year 24, we will start our market research and industry day events. Next slide. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself. I am the workload coordinator here at Fort Eustis as the division chief, and can provide more information on those specific Eustis or migration requirements.
Next up is Fort Rucker. Fort Rucker, floor is yours.
All right, hello, my name is Erin Duncan, and I am the contract specialist that's going to be briefing these requirements. Please note that all dates are subject to change. First off, we have the JOC, the Job Order Contract. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Directorate of Public Works requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A hub zone set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirements with information sufficient to support the set-aside. This is an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract, an IDIQ, for construction on U.S. Army Fort Rucker, Alabama, and satellite installations in the following counties: Dale, Houston, Geneva, Pike, Covington, and Coffee, Alabama. The contractor shall provide all materials, equipment, and personnel necessary to accomplish the multidisciplinary work for broad range of maintenance, repair, and minor construction work. Job orders shall vary in size, complexity, and will include tasks in a variety of trades to include carpentry, mechanical, HVAC, excavating, interior and exterior electrical and high voltage, plumbing, painting, concrete, masonry. In addition, the contractor shall furnish personnel engineering services in cases required per the line items in the Gordian Group Construction Task Catalog, the CTC, and shall provide as-built drawings in the .dwg format, which conforms to the Directorate of Public Works, DPW's electronic computer aid drafting and design software. As-built drawings shall be provided for all projects unless otherwise stated in individual job order scope of work. Critical capability requirements. What construction expertise does your company have in the job ordering contract? Utilizing the Gordian. Project managers is also a critical area of requirements in the statement of work. How does your company intend to satisfy the project manager aspect regarding the multiple project schedules going on at the same time, hiring and retention of key personnel and subcontractors? One of the primary concerns of the government is the company's ability to understand and execute a job order contract using the Gordian. The solicitation and award will be handled by the ACC IRC team at Fort Sam, Houston. Next slide, please. Next, we have the custodial services. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for the AMC IMCOM MCOM General Custodial Services requirement. The intent is to procure these services on a competitive 8A set-aside. An 8A set-aside will be considered providing 2 or more 8A businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The contractor shall support the MCOM and base requirement for general custodial services. This is a non-personal services contract to provide custodial services to various buildings and activities located at Fort Rucker, Alabama. The goal is to support mission accomplishments by providing a clean, healthy environment for occupants, users, and visitors to facilitate and identify to receive custodial services under this contract. To meet this goal, close coordination is required with the contractor and the contracting officer representative, the COR, to efficiently provide custodial services while minimizing disruptions to operations within facilities and meeting security requirements. Contractor shall provide all personnel, equipment, supplies, facilities, transportation, tools, materials, supervisions, and other items and non-personnel service necessary to perform custodial services, which will define upon post facilities and meeting security requirements. The contractor shall comply with FAR 52204-2 security requirements. This clause involves the access to information classified confidential, secret, or top secret, and requires contractors to comply with the security agreement, the DD Form 441. Various levels of facility clearance is required. At this time, the buildings included in the cleaning area have not been finalized. Therefore, the level of security clearance required cannot be expressly stated. Contractor must comply with OSHA rules and regulations. Please note that some buildings will be occupied during required cleaning times. A contractor will be provided a cleaning schedule and rotations of building guidelines. However, there are exceptions. During COVID, for example, high-traffic public areas required additional cleaning, while some buildings were closed entirely. A close relationship with the COR and the contractor ensured a smooth process in cleaning schedules changes. The current contract enters its last option year on April 15th. Expect a request for information to be posted in early fall and a solicitation in the form of a request for proposal to follow shortly after. The new award will be April 15th, 2024, and it will be a base +4. Next slide, please. The facilities maintenance and repair operations. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence headquarters. General maintenance support and repair custodial services requirement. The intent is to procure these services on a small business set-aside. A small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The purpose of this contract is to provide facility maintenance, repair, and custodial operations for headquarters U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence, USACE, Building 101, Novacell Street, Fort Rucker, Alabama, and the Soldier Service Center, Building 5700, Novacell Street. Contractor will be provided custodial and ground maintenance services for the Combat Readiness Center, Building 4905, Ruff Avenue, and Building 1500 on Engineer Road. Facility operations are intended to maintain a safe and effective physical environment in which command, administrative services, and quality customer services can be provided. The intent of this contract is to provide an orderly, well-planned operating and maintenance program, incorporating provisions from prompt, decisive action on operating and maintenance needs, including non-repetitive jobs, to achieve the maximum benefit from systems and assure a longer equipment life. The contractor shall comply with FAR 52204-2 security requirements. The clause involves access to information classified confidential, secret, or top secret, and requires contractors to comply with the security agreement DD Form 441. The contractor must comply with OSHA rules and regulations. Please note that the buildings will be occupied during required cleaning times. The areas of maintenance and services in this requirement is often the first impression for much of Fort Rucker's visitors. Therefore, please note a higher level of responsiveness, respectfulness, and professionalism. The current contract enters its last option year on May 1st. Expect a request for information to be posted in early fall and solicitations in the form of request for proposal to follow after. The new award will be May 1st, 2024, and will be a base +4. Next slide, please. Tabs, mission support. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for Fort Rucker's need for training aids, devices, simulation tours, and simulations, TADS, section loan, and issue support services and device fabrication. The intent is to procure these services as a small business set-aside. A small business set-aside will be considered providing 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirements with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The purpose of this contract is to provide all personnel, labor, expertise, tools, maintenance, equipment, parts, materials, supplies, and services, except as specified as government furnished property and services, in support of the TADS, section loan, and issue support services and device fabrication, as defined and specified in this contract, as well as current common levels of support requirements. Work is to be performed at Fort Rucker, Alabama. The contractor shall support active Army, Reserve components, Reserve Officer Training, ROTC, National Guard, and other organizational entities. The contractor shall employ only personnel who meet investigative requirements for security clearance. A project manager and alternate project manager are required. The project manager and alternate may require access or possible access to classified information or entry to controlled areas, shall also have security and access clearances of secret. Contractors to comply with the security agreement DD 441. GFP, government furnished property, is expected to be provided, so the contractor must adhere to the regulations and handling and using of GFP. The current contract expires the 23rd of September 2023. Please expect the sources sought to be posted within the quarter. This will be a base +4. Next slide, please. Visual information support. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for the visual information support requirement. The intent is to procure these services as a small business set-aside as a firm fixed price contract. The small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The contractor shall provide all personnel, labor, expertise, tools, maintenance, equipment, parts, materials, supplies, and services to supply the visual information products, records, information, and services, as well as current common level support requirements. The contractor shall perform still digital photographic services in black and white and in color, in studio and field environments, and shall process and print photographic products. The scope of service includes captioning, processing, filing, disposing, editing, labeling, enlarging, printing, scanning, mounting, archiving, and reproducing images. Work is performed at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and the 7th Special Forces Group Compound in Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. The contractor shall support active Army, Reserve components, Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC, National Guard, and other organizational entities. Please understand that an environmental protection plan is required. The project manager is a critical area of this requirement. How does your company intend to satisfy the project manager aspect regarding the program schedules, cost containment, meeting and tracking performance, hiring and retention of key personnel, risk mitigation, and day-to-day management of the contract of this complexity? The contractor shall employ only personnel who meet investigative requirements for security clearances. The project manager and alternative project manager may require access or possible access to classified information or entry to controlled areas, and they shall also have security and access clearances of secret. Currently, the sources sought for market research purposes is posted and can be found on sam.gov. Next slide, please. NEPD Consulting. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will procure services for the Medical Evacuation Proponent Directorate Consulting Requirement, or NEPD. The intent is to procure these services on SAM as a firm fixed price contract. A small business set aside will be considered providing 2 or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement for information sufficient to support a set aside. This is a non-personal services contract. The contractor shall provide consultation, subject matter expertise, or SMEs, knowledge management, analytical services to MEPD at the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence, USACE, Fort Rucker, Alabama. Provide consulting and analytical services in the areas of doctorate, organization, training, materials, personnel, and facilities requirement, planning for Army aeromedical evacuation. Provide Army medical evacuation concept refinement, development capabilities, needs documentation, and conduct studies and analysis related to the current and future AE operations. The objective is develop and document required capabilities and gaps with emphasis on input to warfighting functional concepts, CBA and functional-based assessments, analysis. This support includes analysis to ensure linkage of identified standards, capability needs and gaps to prove concepts, experimentations, lessons learned, and documentation requirements. Work shall be conducted on-site. In addition to on-site support, team members shall use reach capabilities for substantial joint and combined arms military expertise, with the AMEDD and USACE contract personnel shall be fluent in joint capabilities, integration, and development systems, and future force development. Areas outlined are classified and require a minimum secret security clearance. A minimum secret level security clearance for all potential contractors and personnel shall be verified prior to contract award. The contract is anticipated to have a surge unfunded objectives. Unexpected strategic tasks might emerge that quickly overwhelm the base staffing. Contractors shall demonstrate an ability to meet these surge demands with minimum notice. The last option year will be exercised on September 1st, 2023, and a new award will be made no later than the 31st of August, 2024. Next slide. Fire extinguisher maintenance. The MICC Fort Rucker Contracting Office will be procuring services for the fire extinguisher maintenance requirement. The intent is to procure these services as a small business set-aside. A small business set-aside will be considered providing 2 or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The contractor shall provide all tools, supplies, equipment, and labor necessary to maintain and service 50 and 100 to 25 and to 150 pound wheeled fire extinguishers located at Fort Rucker, Alabama. The contractor shall perform the required 6 and 12-year hydrostatic testing at a shop owned and operated by the contractor. All annual inspections will be conducted on location at the 5 base fields located at Fort Rucker, Alabama. Annual inspections will be conducted in the first quarter, October through December, of each fiscal year. The contractor shall coordinate the removal of all extinguishers before removing any extinguishers from government property. Corrective maintenance returns a fire extinguisher to full operating capacity as described below. All parts utilized must meet original equipment specifications. The replacement of safety disc assembly, pressure gauges, valve stems, and replacement of wheels and/or hoses and nozzles assembly will be determined at the time of inspection and will be coordinated with the government representative prior to replacement. Other base requirements include but not limited to painting, labeling, hydro testing, and annual inspections and producing reports. The new award for this contract will start no later than July 19th, 2023. That completes everything for Fort Rucker, Alabama. Thank you very much.
Next slide. Thank you, MICC team. We will now entertain questions from the chat. Next slide, please. All right, there were some questions that were submitted related to like active solicitations. And I would say anytime you have questions related to active solicitations, those should be directed to the POC listed on the solicitation to ensure that they get answered in a timely manner. There was a question regarding MCTP several. Could you go back to slide 23, please? So one of the questions asked, so slide 23, that dollar amount is correct. I just went in through FPDS and validated the amount. So those actions were previously solicited using full and open competition. So the slide 23, that was 341 million, and slide 24, maneuver battle lab comprehensive support, that was 49.8 million. And keep in mind, one of the changes that recently came about is 52, the clause FAR 52219-14. One of the issues sometimes small business run into, right, is meeting the limitations on subcontracting. But there is the possibility of you subcontracting to a similarly situated entity without violating that limitation of subcontracting clause. Also, for some of our actions that are full and open, there has been cases where we've had small businesses partner together and successfully win that acquisition. So even though some of these are full and open, during the sources sought period, we will look at responses, and if the responses justify setting it aside, we will definitely consider setting it aside for small business. I can give you one example of an action that was actually full and open. It was mission support services at Bliss, and that action was for nearly $500 million, and the subcontractors, a lot of the subcontractors under that particular requirement, they got together for the follow-on and decided to compete against the big boys, and they actually won. So there's some good news stories out there. I don't know if the Shayna wanted to add anything.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and Luis. I actually did want to make a note. The period of performance on the recompete MCTP is actually wrong. They are going beyond 5 years. I believe it's a base and 7. The awarded value is probably not the current value because with COVID, we did have reductions in travel. And for those interested in the requirement, travel is extensive, as well as contractor support. So the values for MCTP are accurate. They may be a little bit higher, and the follow-on is a base plus 7. The draft RFP, like I said, is out. I would highly encourage checking sam.gov for information on submitting a question before Friday. I believe it's closing at noon on Friday. The battle lab has increased slightly. If you go to, I believe they're the next slide, because of Army Futures Command. Some of the pieces of the TRADOC Maneuver Center, that IDIQ is not continuing. So the Battle Lab has had an increase in some of their mission with the split between TRADOC and Futures Command and the loss of the Maneuver Center of Excellence IDIQ. So I believe the current package came in around $89 million. Just for clarifications. All
right, thank you so much, Shayna. I wanted to also point out that when it comes to these contract numbers, we're giving you the contract numbers. So I don't know if you're all familiar, but fpds.gov, you can cut and paste the contract number without dashes, and it'll give you all the contract action reports. There is a slight delay, 3-month delay on actions posted, but you'll get a pretty comprehensive report of all of the actions and the dollar amounts on a specific contract. So that's a good source to go and view stuff, and it's all publicly available if you have a contract number. There was also a question, the small business professional continued to remind us that they cannot provide us procurement sensitive information. What reference tell us what they consider to be procurement sensitive? Can we expect a small business professional to give us update on the acquisition timeline, the contracting office that will oversee the solicitation, etc.? We are finding every info request we make is avoided as procurement sensitive, usually with the follow-up that if they tell us, they have to tell everyone. We agree, tell everyone who bothers to make an appointment. In many cases, the small business professionals push back on face-to-face meetings. When that happens, who do we go to? Okay, so there's a lot of questions in that particular question. I can tell you that typically once a solicitation is issued, we are limited on what we can discuss. When the sources sought comes out, it usually has a language there that says if you believe something is overly restrictive, it gives a point of contact for the special competition advocate. So that's another source that you can always talk to. But when you go to our website at mic.army.mil, you can just search, actually, you can just Google MICC, M-I-C-C, and it'll pop right up. So when you go to the MICC website, you go to the small business section, and the small business section, it has how to contact a small business professional. So when you contact a small business professional through that route, it sends a notification to the small business professional, their supervisor, and it also sends a notice to the public affairs office and also our small business analyst so that we can track those requests. So if you are asking for an appointment to speak to a small business professional and they're not responding, follow up with that email, and then we'll be sure to follow up to ensure that they meet with you. So we're here to meet with you. We're here to assist small businesses. So if for some reason at any time you're not happy, bring it up. That email process allows you to contact the supervisor as well as the small business professional at the same time. Let's see. Okay. One of the issues that we do have with face-to-face meeting, just to let you know, right? We have, just like every other agency in government, we have less people now than we used to in the past. So what that means for us is that a lot of our offices are being supported remotely. So, for example, let's say at Fort Bliss, so we no longer have a small business professional at Fort Bliss. So the small business professional supporting Fort Bliss is located at Fort Hood. So therefore, if you're looking to meet with the small business professional and do a face-to-face at Fort Bliss, that's not going to be possible because they're no longer located there. So we have our agency has had to readjust when it comes to small business support as we're supporting remotely. But having said that, Teams is a great venue. We can see you, you can see us, and we've had a lot of success with that method because you get a little bit more than just a phone call conversation. So the other question, are there opportunities to join with a large business as a subcontractor? I would say the answer to that is yes, there's always opportunities, right? One of the things that I like to highlight is that when an action is over $750,000 for services or 1.5 million, sorry, $750,000 or more, or 1.5 million for construction, we require a subcontracting plan. So what that means is if that's awarded on an unrestricted basis to large business, they're going to be required to subcontract to small business. And we typically will use historical trends, knowledge of the field that we're the work, and we'll make goals that are challenging but achievable to ensure that we maximize utilization of small business. So even, for example, slide 23 and 24, right, we provided an example of actions that were previously done full and open. If market research does not support some sort of small business set aside and supports going full and open, well, we're going to require a subcontracting plan. So if you can do portions of that work, you may want to, attend any site visit held. Also, put yourself as an interested vendor so that other folks know that, hey, this person can do some of the work, because those large businesses that get that award are going to be looking for subcontracting, or they're going to be looking for capable small business to subcontract to. Okay, another question was, how long before a contract expires does the sources sought go out? And how long does the incumbent allowed to recompete for the same contract when they had previously? Okay, the answers to this are, there's a lot of, it depends, right? So for the sources sought, typically for a smaller action, they're going to be released a little bit later on. For larger actions, they're going to be released earlier in the timeline. All of that is dependent really on having that contract or that package, that complete package from the customer. And sometimes that is what we struggle with. So what we've implemented at the MICC is that when that final option is exercised, we need to have a package in hand. If we don't, then there's an elevation that happens on our part internally to ensure that, hey, we need to get that package from the customer so that we can proceed. So a lot of it is dependent on when we get that package and we have the complete requirement to go out and do the sources sought. As far as incumbents allowed to compete, it really depends on the type of set aside. So for the most part, right, if a small business continues to be a small business, then they can compete for the follow-on. For the 8A, there's typically an expiration date for that 8A, so they can compete for follow-on requirements until that. I'm sorry, if it's competitive, right, they can compete for that follow-on requirement until they're no longer eligible to receive awards under the 8A program. And the same thing for hub zones. So sometimes, the hub zones change. So they may be eligible on the initial contract, but they may not be eligible on the follow-on. And of course, you still have to be considered a small business under the selected NAICS code for you to be able to compete for a follow-on contract. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, one other question is there a specific format to ask for a debrief? As a hub zone in the 6th year of 10, the expectation of SDBs has elevated. Some areas are running low on 8As or other. Okay, so that question has a lot of parts to it. So when it comes to debrief, the regulations mandate what we provide on the debrief. So FAR DFARS, there's information there on what we are required to provide. So typically that's what the contracting officer will provide. The SDB goals have been elevated and we have continued to exceed those goals. So we've been doing really good when it comes to 8A questions or 8A program. I can tell you that MICC as an agency, we're typically in the 18 to 22% range. So we do actively use the 8A program. So it's something that we definitely use. But at the same time, we also want to ensure that all of the programs get their due chance, right? So typically 18 to 22 or so goes to the 8A via the 8A route, but then we also do some hub zone, SDB, OSB, woman-owned set-asides to also enable those other socioeconomic categories to have an opportunity to win contracts. All right, welcome back. We'll now pick back up on the requirement presentations from MICC Fort Sill, Fort Lee, and Carlisle Barracks. Fort Sill, floor is yours. Next slide.
Good morning. My name is Nicole English, and I'm a KO at MICC Fort Sill, briefing the bulk laundry services requirement. The MICC Fort Sill Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Army Sustainment Command, ASC, Logistics Readiness Center, LRC, requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support the set-aside. The contractor shall provide laundry and dry cleaning services to include labor, supervision, vehicle transportation for pickup and delivery, facilities, equipment, supplies, and material, unless designated as government furnished, within this contract, necessary for the performance for bulk and piece rate customers support at Fort Sill. This contract includes functions, tasks, and responsibilities normally inherent to a laundry and dry cleaning facility. The contractor shall receive, account for, process, and return articles tendered for laundry. The contractor shall establish and maintain a system of record to quantify work performed and shall prepare administrative correspondence and reports incidental to the work covered in this contract. The government will assess capabilities, highlighting some key areas such as the following. This process includes drop-off, pickup, and direct exchange at designated locations. The laundry services include accountability, wash, dry, and package specified items, blankets, pillows, sheets, pillowcases, mattress covers, bedspreads, tablecloths, cook and medical non-reimbursable whites, confinement uniforms, and OCIE to meet organizational health and sanitation requirements. Dry cleaning services include accountability and cleaning, packaging of items, flags, bunting, draperies, ceremonial uniforms, funeral detail clothing, and special categories. The contractor shall pick up soiled items and equipment from designated unit areas on unit scheduled days at 0830 hours through 1000 hours and 1230 hours through 1500 hours, Monday through Friday. All laundered items shall be directly exchanged at the location it was received from on the same day during the same scheduled times listed above. If not, laundered items shall be returned within 3 business days of pickup. The drop-off day and pickup day are included in the return time frame. One primary concern that the government has is the company's ability to ensure daily delivery and pickup of the laundered items and quick turnaround. The contractor shall schedule and manage operations to maximize responsiveness, efficiency, and economy to the Fort Sill community. Our forecasted publication date would be on or around the 5th of April. Next slide. Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. All right, up next is Fort Lee. Fort Lee, floor is yours.
All right, good morning. My name is John Myers, and I'm the Installation Division Chief for MICC Fort Lee. The Fort Lee Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Directorate of Public Works Environmental Management Division for kitchen hood cleaning. The intention is to procure these services as a small business set-aside. A woman-owned small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support this set-aside. The requirement's going to include furnishing labor, equipment, materials, and supervision to provide cleaning for kitchen exhaust duct systems at Fort Lee, Virginia. There are approximately 117 separate systems on the installation that will require kitchen exhaust cleaning. The contractor will need to clean ducts, hoods, fans, fan assembly, hood filters, and provide service calls on each exhaust duct system. The service calls will be on an on-needed basis with short notice to ensure those systems maintain functional systems for the kitchens. There haven't been any performance issues in the past, and the previous source selection was lowest price technically acceptable. The period of performance listed on this slide is a little bit off. The current contract actually runs through 31 October 2024. So we're looking at anticipated solicitation being posted in July 2024 with award of the follow-on contract in September 2024. Next slide, please.
Good morning. My name is Angela Triplett, and I'm going to be presenting for this slide. I am the KO for the Mission Division and the Mission Division Chief for Fort Lee. The Army Futures Command is what we're going to be procuring under the Joint Capabilities Integration Development System, CDID, JCIDS. The intention is to procure this service on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirements with this information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor so supports the sustainment concept, procurement, and capabilities, and provide an analytical subject matter experts, SME support services for the U.S. Army Futures Command, sustainment capabilities development and integration directions, the SCDID, concept branch, and assessment of integration branches in support of the Joint Capabilities Integration Development Systems, JCIDS, requirements for the sustainment warfighters functions in accordance with the Army's version of the Army's strategy on which was listed on OCT October 2018. The Army Campaign Plan, DA Form EXORDXX, the Army Modernization Strategy, and the Realized Multi-Domain Operations by 2018. The government will assess capabilities, highlight some key areas such as the following. Example, what technical and operational expertise does your company have to the joint operations in the multiple domains as it applies to the war games, the project programs, and the critical areas that are intended to satisfy the PM aspects regardless of the programs, and in a top secret facility clearance is required. The anticipated period of performance for this is solicitation shall be posted on June 1st, 2023, with award date anticipated on or around August 10th of 2023. Next slide, please.
Okay, like I said before, I'm John Myers, and I'm the contracting officer for the Military Personnel Division AG Services Requirement. The MICC Fort Lee Contracting Office will procure services for MCOM, Director of Human Resources. The intention is to procure these sources on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. For this requirement, the contractor shall provide all personnel, equipment, supplies, facilities, transportation, tools, materials, and other items necessary to provide HR concepts and doctrine, integration of new HR IT systems training, HR organizational structure, HR training, and education curriculum development, and HR transformation training initiatives for both military and DA civilian personnel as defined in the performance work statement. The contractor shall perform in accordance with the terms and conditions of the performance work statement. Critical areas for this requirement, some of the duties that the contractor will perform. The government will assess capabilities as far as providing multifaceted support and capabilities to IPSA training development, integrated personnel pay system Army, training, learning, solutions, and evaluation. Work with integrated teams across the Army to assist in the development and fielding of the IPSA system, provide synchronization and strategic engagement support to human resources training and events, conferences, seminars, and forums, provide planning and execution support to multiple strategic level forums involving Army-wide HR stakeholders, inform and assist in the communication of the AGS Strategic Human Resources Support Story to leaders, soldiers, and families across the Army, provide capabilities for Army HR transformation to the Army Capability Manager, Human Resources, assist in the development of responsive HR training solutions, support the development and integration of HR doctrine and associated publications, develop recommended changes to existing HR structure and policies to overcome organizational warfighting capability shortfalls to include identifying specific functions, roles, and responsibilities performed by Army organizations impacted by HR across the total force. To minimize any decreases in productivity, there'll be a 30-day phase-in, phase-out period. And during that phase-in period, the contractor will become familiar with performance requirements regarding the IPSA system. We anticipate an RFP is going to be posted by April 2023 with an anticipated award date by May 2023 and phase-in taking place in June 2023. And that concludes the requirements for Fort Lee.
All right, next slide, please. We will now be moving on to Carlisle Barracks. Carlisle, the floor is yours. Next slide, please.
Good morning. My name is Bethany Flynn, and I'm the Senior Contracting Specialist for MICC Carlisle Barracks. Our office serves both the Carlisle Barracks Post and the United States Army War College, USAWC. I'll be presenting 6 requirements today. Our office will be procuring services for the Army Strategic Education Program, ASEP, course support requirement in 2024. Our intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set-aside will be considered, provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. The USAWC is the hub for all general officer professional military education for the Army, including colonels who have been selected for promotion up through new 4-stars. As a result, the qualifications required of key personnel for this contract are the strictest of all U.S. Army War College's contracts. The contract operates in surges based on course dates, so the number of personnel needs to flex to accommodate up to 15 people at a time. The contractor shall provide up to 3 course operations support personnel, up to 4 writing coaches, up to 2 facilitators, up to 6 curriculum development staff, and no more than 1 adjunct professor at a time. The operations support personnel only need a high school diploma plus 2 years experience in planning and execution of events, but they also require a minimum of 1 year working with senior military officers. The writing coaches, the papers they will be coaching on, all subjects are of military relevance, and it is important that the coaches are proficient with those subjects. So all coaches must be either a senior service college graduate or have a military education level 1 or higher, plus a master's degree. They also have to have at least 1 year's experience of teaching at the graduate level. Curriculum developers are required to have a master's degree, plus 18 months in the last 3 years, developing curriculum for general officer level professional military education, and at least 3 years experience developing a senior service college or above level course. Excuse me. Been told my camera wasn't working. There we go. Things get more complex when you're dealing with your facilitators. The facilitators, they have to have the senior service level college degree or military level education 1 or greater, but they must have also have served as an 06, either a colonel or a captain, depending on your branch, or above, and have had command level experience. And then you get to your adjunct professors. There's a reason we only need 1 at a time. An adjunct professor must be a retired 4-star Army General 010 or SES equivalent, with the requisite experience personally serving at the highest levels of leadership, and possess a demonstrated capacity to professionally develop Army senior leaders with appropriate knowledge and experience within the last 10 years. Given the weight of the required qualifications and the prominence of the requirement, an interested vendor must give sufficient detail regarding their ability to fulfill these positions. The current contract is projected for completion 31 July 2024, but the addition of an extension is expected. And I'm already on this slide. So our office is also procuring services for the digitization of archival materials later this year. The intention is to procure these on a competitive basis. A small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. U.S. Army War College also hosts a museum, the Army Heritage and Education Center, known as AHEC, which possesses a vast collection of documents of historical value to the U.S. Army. These documents include times from pre-Revolutionary War to present day, and many are irreplaceable. An effort is ongoing to scan, classify, and catalog the documents to both preserve them and to aid in scholarly research undergone by U.S. Army War College and other people in other locations. Some are paper documents, but other materials are possible, including vellum and parchment. The contractor is responsible for providing their own workspace and is responsible for packaging the records for transport at AHEC, then shipping the records to their facility in an environmentally controlled fashion. After the process is complete, the contractor is likewise responsible for returning and unpacking the records. Documents handled includes those of a sensitive but unclassified nature, meaning that the documents must be handled in accordance with the policies and regulations associated with those classifications, including facility security requirements. All data will be transferred to the government server location. No copies may be kept by the contractor. The current contract is projected for completion 26 September 2023, but the addition of an extension is expected. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, those got reversed. I didn't see that. Post-custodial. Our office will be procuring these services, this requirement later this year. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis with 8A set aside. These services are for almost the entire post, but does not include the medical clinic. The majority of cleanings are done on a cyclical basis, but others are done on an as-ordered basis due to events held that required an increased frequency of cleanings. The contract does have a requirement for personnel with secret security clearances, so the contractor is required to maintain an equal or greater level facility clearance. The contractor will be responsible for procuring all supplies and equipment required for this contract and will be required to source from Ability One wherever possible. Supplies include items such as cleaning reagents, latrine resupply, and light bulbs. Workspace with storage will be provided. However, no other government furnished property will be provided. The current contract is projected for completion 30 November 2023. Next slide, please. Our office will be procuring services for the maintenance and testing of fire detection systems in 2024. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set-aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with the information sufficient to support the set-aside. This contract includes maintenance and testing of the entire post's fire detection and suppression systems, also including emergency repair on an on-call basis. The phone calls can and do come 24 hours a day. There have been performance issues in the past, not with the incumbent contractor, but the one previous, where there were times when the contractor didn't answer the phone or didn't respond timely. So that is something that the requiring activity is very, very interested in. All technicians must be certified in accordance with industry standards. The post is currently undergoing an update to the applicable systems. Outdated systems are being replaced via contract that is managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Some buildings may still have older systems. Some will have brand new systems, and some items may even still be under warranty. The current contract is projected to end 31 August 2024, but the addition of an extension is expected. Next slide, please. Our office will be procuring services for a distance facility for not more than one, distance faculty instructor first year in 2024. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis with a small business set-aside. The set-aside is indicated based on procurement history. The Department of Distance Education is a part of the U.S. Army War College. The U.S. Army War College has two paths for degree completion: an 11-month resident program or 26-month program with what is known as DDE. DDE maintains a large number of contracted instructors. The first year alone has 8 faculty instructor contracts with 6 positions due for replacement in 2024. Positions may be fulfilled by a single individual or a pair. Minimum qualifications include: must have graduated from a senior service college, must have a minimum of a master's degree in an applicable field, and a minimum of 3 years faculty experience at a graduate level school. Selection is done using full trade procedures, meaning that more qualified offers will receive a higher rating. If a pair is offered, both individuals must meet the qualifications, and the pair will be rated based off of the lower of the 2 ratings. Period of performance for these 6 contracts will be 15 July 2024 through 14 July 2029. These will be solicited as a multiple award action, with all positions being awarded from a single solicitation. A vendor may submit more than one individual or pair, as long as each is a separate offer. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Second year. Again, as with first year, these are procured on a competitive basis with small business set aside due to procurement history. But unlike first year, second year is due to have 2 positions solicited in 2023. They maintain 7 faculty instructor positions, but theirs are a bit more spread out, with at least 1 position being solicited each year. In 2023, it happens to be 2. 2024 also maintains 2. Like again with first year, positions may be fulfilled by an individual or a pair, and the minimum qualifications remain the same. Selection is still done using full trade procedures, meaning more qualified offers will receive the higher rating. If a pair is offered, again, both individuals must meet the qualifications, and the pair will be rated off of the lower of the 2. Unlike with first year, the 2 positions that are due for replacement in 2023 have a period of performance starting 1 June instead of in July 2023, but they go for slightly longer at the end with a 2-month 5th option ending 31 July 2028. This allows the teachers to stay on staff until graduation mid-July. Again, at least in years where there's more than 1 position, these are solicited as a multiple award action, all positions being awarded from a single solicitation. A vendor may submit more than 1 individual or pair so long as each is a separate offer. Next slide. And next slide. Thank you.
All right, thank you, MICC team. We will now entertain questions from the chat. All right, and we had several questions. One of them kind of made me laugh because they said that they searched for MICC videos and they saw some videos that were a little unsafe. But anyways, we will post the links for the YouTube channels as well as the questions and answers, so you'll have an opportunity to, you know, get a direct link to go to those videos. There were a couple of comments about slides being static or not moving. On our end, I have the presentation in front of me, and then I'm also looking externally so I can see them moving. Sometimes at the receiver's end with Teams, sometimes the slides can freeze or the video can stop. So if that happens to you, just get out and come back in, and that should fix the problem. Another one said slide 48 that they couldn't, or the one before digitalization of archive materials, that they couldn't see that. So could you go back to slide 48 real quick? Let that one on for a few moments. Okay, there was also a question or a concern with slide 50, that when we were speaking on slide, we're displaying slide 51, so they were asking if we could show them slide 50. So go ahead and put it to slide 50. A few seconds so they can get that info. Oh. 51, sorry. Okay, there was also a question on the website to go in order to paste the contract information. That's fpds.gov. So if you go to fpds.gov, you'll see like a Google search bar. It'll look just like a Google search bar. You delete the information that's there, and then you can just cut and paste the contract number there, and it'll give you the information for all the contract action reports that were awarded for that contract. Also, like if you have a NAICS code that you're looking to pursue, you can actually put that NAICS code in there and search, and then it'll give you all of the contract awards that have been done throughout government for that particular NAICS code. Another thing that I recommend to contractors that are looking to do business with us, right, is look at the DODAC. So the DODAC in a solicitation, typically it's the first few numbers right before the fiscal year. So if you post those 6 digits, it will give you all of the contracts that have been awarded by that particular office. You can also use that in SAM.gov, right? So if you post that in SAM.gov, it will give you all the active solicitations or sources sought that are out there for a particular office. I would definitely recommend you doing that when you're going to meet with a small business professional, because that will let you know, okay, this is what's active. This is the type of stuff they're buying. Okay, are they selling? Are they buying what I'm selling? So we try to facilitate that for you by posting it in the contact the small business professional. So if you go to the MICC website, which we've also provided throughout the presentation and in our slides, if you go to the MICC website and click the small business section and contact the small business professional, when you click that, it will open up with the different FDO brigades, right? And when you click in there, it'll give you the email, a phone number, and it also will give you the DODAC for that office. And that, like I said, that information is critical because it'll help you find a lot of information about what that office buys, what they do, what they have active. Okay, and there were several questions on the LPTA. I can tell you that many of you are aware, the National Defense Act of fiscal year 2017 as amended in 822 of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2018. It provided some information that limits the use of LPTA, that restricts the use of LPTA. So for that, our folks, right, they work with legal. They also put our sources sought out, and through that they request information. So if an action is LPTA currently, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be LPTA on the follow-on. So the contracting officers will work, with their legal and also their supervisors in coordinating that, and they're going to take the sources sought. So if you have concerns about something, the methodology used, you can always ask questions or provide suggestions, because something that we typically ask during the sources sought. Another thing, like I mentioned, during the sources sought, the special competition advocate information is provided there. So if you have concerns and you feel like, hey, you're not getting anywhere with the contracting officer, you always have that as a means. And also your small business professional can also assist with that, with providing you that information. There was a question about, I guess, an action that was not presented today, staffing opportunity for nurses and physicians. Yeah, for MICC doesn't typically do personnel services. So I don't know if this is one that we would do, but I can tell you that we don't present every single action in this mode, right? Part of the reason is that some of the actions expire later on, so we're trying to present the actions that are expiring sooner. And then some of the actions are limited, based on, okay, maybe they were an 8A sole source, so they're not going to be synopsized and all of that. So if you have questions for a particular action that you saw that was awarded by one of our offices, you can use the website and then contact our small business professional via that mode, and then they can provide you additional information on if that acquisition, if we're tracking that there's going to be a follow-on for it. And like I mentioned before, when you submit an email to a small business professional, it also goes to the public affairs office, the small business analyst, and it also goes to the supervisor or the small business professional. And we're not perfect. I can tell you that for me, I get like some days I get 200 emails. So every once in a while I miss one, right? We're not, or it might go to the junk mail. So if you send a notification or an email to small business professional and they don't answer within a reasonable time, follow up, because sometimes we do miss questions because we get so many at the time, particularly like right after the APBI, we'll get a large influx of emails that all come at the same time. So please be patient with us. But like I said, we are here to support you. So if you don't get a response, follow up, and then we will be sure to address that. Okay. Let's see. Welcome back. We will now pick back up on the requirement presentations from MICC, West Point, Fort Gordon, Fort Benning, and Fort Leonard Wood. We will hear from a West Point contracting officer presenting information on refuge services requirement. Next slide, please. West Point, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Stephanie Nicolon-Barron, and I am a procurement analyst at MICC West Point, not a contracting officer. The MICC West Point contracting office will be procuring services for the West Point garrison for refuge and recycling collection and removal. The contractor shall be licensed, registered, certified, qualified, and experienced in the state of New York to provide the type of refuge recycling service required by this contract. The contractor shall furnish all supervisions, labor, tools, vehicles, material, quality control, and equipment required to collect, transport, and dispose of all refuge and recycling materials at a transfer station that is off-post, to include residential refuge and from numerous locations on the installations and out at the ranges. The contractor shall determine the most cost-effective manner to minimize collection and disposal costs while maximizing recyclable and refuse materials, including but not limited to paper products, D-rim tires, woody debris, wooden pallets, metal, concrete, brick, furniture, appliances, air conditioners, refrigerators, plastic, glass, aluminum, tin, scrap metal, toner cartridges, electronics, televisions, batteries, mattresses, and other bulky materials placed adjacent to the solid waste collection point, and all the bulk solid waste in an environmentally responsible manner. The contractor shall also collect, transport, and deliver organic materials collected from West Point to an off-site landscape recycling composting facility. The organic waste will include, but it's not limited to, grass clippings, cut and uprooted weeds, shrubs, leaves, logs, and limbs. There will be residential and organic facility materials that require collection and transportation. The contractor shall also collect and transport and deliver sludge and grit materials collected from the West Point wastewater treatment plant to off-site recycling facilities. Sludge waste shall be collected a minimum of 2 times per week. General business is conducted between the hours of 6:30 and 4:30. There are certain special events that require alternate working hours. The contractor must maintain an adequate workforce for the uninterrupted performance of all waste tasks defined within the PWS, and the contractor shall understand and acknowledge that the stability and continuation of operations are central. The contractor shall place, combine, relocate, and remove all of the recycle, refuge containers, and equipment in the types and quantities that are adequate to collect and deliver. The contractor shall move the recycle and refuge collection containers from one location to the other, including but not limited to moving of unserviceable or new containers within anywhere of the boundaries of the U.S. garrison within 24 hours of notice. The intention is to procure this on a competitive basis. The current contract is a base plus 4 option years firm fixed price contract. There is a collective bargaining agreement associated with this contract, and there are no milestones at this time. Next slide. The West Point Contracting Office will be procuring services for approximately 121 doors at 8 United States Corps of Cadet facilities for exterior door frame and hardware repair, preventive maintenance, and replacement. The contractor shall provide all personnel, equipment, supplies, facilities, transportation tools, materials, supervisions, and other items and non-personal services necessary to perform the services. Preventative maintenance will include as required and recommended by the original equipment manufacturer, service and repair manuals, drawings, industry standards, and all federal, state, and local codes. The contractor shall provide preventive maintenance to maintain a proper security function. Contractor shall perform at least bi-weekly, bi-weekly inspections or more as needed, and shall provide a preventative maintenance work schedule. The contractor must ensure 100% of door maintenance is completed within a 12-month period on all doors. Upon completion of each preventative maintenance service, the specified tasks shall have been performed. The equipment shall operate to the manufacturer specifications and shall be fully functional and free of any visible condition which could pose an operational failure. The contractor shall record and provide an itemized listing of all deficiencies by location with a cost proposal for each location. The contractor has to attend weekly inspection meetings with the COR. The contractor is required to provide the written report of deficiencies, including what corrective measures taken and replacement parts are required, to the COR for review. The contractor is responsible for checking each door equipped with a CAC reader during the maintenance checks, and if there is a problem discovered in the CAC system, the contractor shall notify the contractor, COR, and the building manager. Under the contract, there are also service calls for repairs to the exterior doors. The contractor performs these with an inspection and determining the cause of the malfunction or defect. This inspection shall include, but will not be limited to, panic devices, exit devices, door handles, locks, hinges, saddles, closers, electric strikes, door leaves, glass panels, removable key mullions, kick plates, and weather stripping. During the service call, the contractor shall perform any minor adjustments to return the exterior door to an operational status. Minor adjustments shall include, but are not limited to, repairs such as tightening loose nuts and bolts or positioning the door to proper alignment. Completion of a service call requires that the exit door be properly operational, defined as a door that opens and closes freely and easily through a minimum of 3 complete cycles of opening and closing from the completely closed position to the completely open position. Normal government service is 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. Adequate workforce for uninterrupted performance of all tasks must be maintained, and the contractor shall understand and acknowledge stability and continuation of operations at West Point are essential. On this contract, all contractors could be in the central area where our cadets are, and CAC readers for all employees, CAC cards shall be required for all employees, and additional safety and security regulations will be enforced in central area. The intention is to procure the service on a competitive basis. The current contract is a base plus 4 option years, firm fixed price, and the milestones are not finalized at this time. Next slide. MICC West Point's final contract, they'll be procuring services for the United States Military Academy for air monitoring services. The combustion sources consisting of boilers and generators on post are regulated for nitrogen oxide emissions and/or opacity under a Title V air permit. Emissions from sulfur dioxide are regulated by the sulfur content of the diesel fuel. The contractor must be licensed, registered, certified, qualified, and experienced to provide the type of services required by the contract. They must meet US EPA and New York State DEC specifications for compliance. The contractor shall furnish all supervision, labor, tools, vehicles, materials, quality control, and equipment required to perform the services of the contractor. They must also have possession of the required standard transfer meters needed for the certification of oil and gas fuel meters. The contract covers 9 boilers that burn natural gas with fuel oil as a backup, 1 peak shaving generator, 5 emergency standby generators that run on diesel, and other numerous emergency standby generators that are not regulated by the Title V permit, but must comply with federal emission standards for nitrogen oxides and CO. There are 3 boilers at the central power plant that are regulated for opacity and monitor with the continuous opacity meter system, or COMS, which records and stores the data on the data acquisitions that are located on a computer at the central power plant. The contract will include the following: installation, maintenance, certification, or repair tasks: installing, configuring, operating, and maintaining continuous emission monitoring systems, or SIMs, relative accuracy testing audits, or RATA reporting for the predictive emissions monitoring systems, or PIMS, and the SIM system. PIMS quarterly cylinder gas audits, PIMS annual RATA opacity monitor maintenance, nitrogen oxides rack testing, nitrogen oxides rack boiler testing, EPA Method 19 fuel analysis, EPA neutral density filter calibrations, calibrations of oil and gas meters, comms audit, emergency opacity repair service, EPA Method 9 testing, quarterly preventative maintenance for data archiving and backup, numerous EPA Protocol G1 gas testing, emergency services for the SIMs, preventative maintenance for the SIMs and the PIMs, preventative maintenance parts, annual RADA and cylinder certified gas audits of the SIMs for for oxides, SIMS systems quarterly accuracy assessments, comms and SIM software maintenance, and monthly status reports. The contractor shall also be required to maintain on-site an inventory of 9 calibration tanks. 3 are Protocol G1 oxygen, 3 are nitric oxide Protocol G1, and 3 are ultra-high purity nitrogen. The intention is to procure this as a competitive service. The current contract is a base plus 4 years firm fixed price, and no milestones have been finalized at this time. That completes West Point's presentation.
Up next is Fort Gordon. Fort Gordon, the floor is yours. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sherilyn Rice, and I'm the contracting officer at MICC Fort Gordon. And today I will be brief in 5 requirements. The first requirement that will be brief is a joint curriculum instructional support services. The MICC Fort Gordon contracting office will be procuring services for the Cyber Center of Excellence for joint curriculum instructional support services. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis, as small business set aside will be considered, provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a small business set aside. The contractor shall support the cyber school in executing its mission by instructing, updating, and revising products in accordance with Training and Doctrine Command, Regulation 350-70, and all applicable regulations. Cyber School Training Development Standard Operation Procedures, and to conform with guidance provided by U.S. Cybercom Operation Procedures, and to conform. The contractor shall also oversight policies and guidance in updating and revising products. Instructor writer will plan, organize, and carry out special duties, analysis, and evaluation affecting resident and non-resident training. The requirement consists of various tasks, training and support, and providing classroom instruction. The government will assess capabilities of what expertise does your organization have in providing training support and classroom instructions in accordance with established program of instruction and master training plan. Army Learning Concept 2015, U.S. Cybercom J7, National Cryptologic Training System, Department of Defense Cybersecurity Workforce Framework Training Standard, the Joint Cyber Training and Certification Standard. Program management is also a critical area of this requirement as described in Section 5 of the PWS. How does your company intend to satisfy the program management aspect regarding the program schedules, cost containment, meeting and tracking performance, hiring, retention of key personnel, risk mitigation, and the day-to-day management of a contract of this complexity? A top secret facility clearance is also required. Currently, the solicitation is posted to SAMS.gov. Solicitation number is W91249-23R0006 and is scheduled to be closed on the 23rd of March. This concludes the briefing on the Joint Curriculum Instructional Support Requirement. Next slide, please. The second requirement that will be brief is the laundry service requirement. The MICC Fort Gordon Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Logistics Readiness Center laundry service requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis as a 100% small business set-aside. However, a small business set-aside will only be considered providing 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set-aside. This acquisition requires the contractor to provide the Logistic Readiness Center laundry and dry cleaning services support to clean and press textiles, garments, linens, organizational clothing, and individual equipment, and other fabric for active and reserve components to ensure organizational health and sanitation requirements and meal preparation attire complies as it relates to life, health, and safety. The government will assess capabilities such as the following. What type of work has your company performed in the past in support of the same or similar requirement? What specific technical skills does your company possess to ensure you can perform all the tasks outlined in the PWS successfully? The government will start the procurement process for a follow-on contract around April or May of this year by issuing a sources sought notice. From there, we will establish a more defined timeline. Next slide, please. The third requirement that will be brief is alarm monitoring services requirement. The MICC Fort Gordon Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Defense Forensic Science Center for alarm monitoring services. This requirement is in the 8A program. However, the current contractor graduated out of the program. The contractor shall support the Defense Forensic Science Center by providing alarm monitoring and help desk support. The requirement consists of various tasks. Provide emergency notification to police, fire, emergency medical service, and Department of the Army Security Guards. Provide fire intrusion detection system and closed circuit television monitoring function 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays at the Gillum Enclave Alarm Monitoring Center. Perform Georgia and National Crime Information Center criminal and driver history background checks, operate the emergency warning alert system, and coordinate with local 911 Center for Police, Fire, and Ambulance dispatches, and send out ad hoc messages for any emergencies. The government will assess capabilities in the following. What type of work has your company performed in the past in support of the same or similar requirement? What specific technical skills does your company possess to ensure you can perform all the tasks outlined in the PWS successfully? The government will start the procurement process for a follow-on upon the receipt of the requirement package. Upon receipt of the requirement package, the government will issue a sources sought notice to find a capable 8A vendor that can provide the requirement. From there, we will establish a more defined timeline. This concludes the briefing on alarm monitoring support requirement. Next slide, please. The fourth requirement that will be brief is the human factors support requirement. The MICC Fort Gordon Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Cyber School, Cyber Center of Excellence for human factors support. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered, providing 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. This requirement is to provide the U.S. Army Cyber School with a qualified human factors specialist to travel to events, properly vet personnel, and generate recruitment leads to fill training, seat, and meet personnel shortage requirement within the Cyber Corps in all cohorts, officers, warrant officers, and enlisted personnel at Fort Gordon. The human factors specialist will assist with the efforts to commission and enlist cyber officers and enlisted members. The human factors specialists will plan, develop, and implement a comprehensive plan that identifies target market and generate recruitment leads on a monthly basis. The requirement consists of various tasks, marketing and recruitment. The government will assess capabilities of what expertise does your company have in recruiting analysts, implementing recruitment marketing processes, and marketing plan to track and measure the effectiveness of the marketing and recruitment program. A secret facility clearance is required. The government will start the procurement process for a follow-on contract upon the receipt of the requirement package. Upon receipt of the requirement package, the government will issue a sources sought notice. From there, we will establish a more defined timeline. This concludes the briefing on human factor support requirement. Next slide, please. The fifth requirement that will be briefed is the Functional Area 26 Alpha Network System Service requirement. The MICC Fort Gordon Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Signal Leader Development College, Army Signal School for FA-26 Alpha, formerly FA-24, Area of Concentration requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor shall support the Signal Leader Development College executing its mission to provide program support to produce qualified functional Area 26 officers in accordance with DAPAM 600-3. The requirement consists of various tasks: train and support, classroom instruction, develop and provide lesson plan, training material, and updates. The special qualifications are possess a doctorate level degree from an accredited STEM program based in the United States of America in a relevant field of expertise correlating to the respective block of instruction being given, for example, electrical engineering, computer engineering, computer science, electrical computing, telecommunication, applied mathematics, system analyst, and design, operating system concept and design, or configuration management. Have been assigned as a professor at an accredited U.S. university with at least 5 years experience teaching at the graduate level. Have 1 year of experience directly relating to the position, having worked in a military school environment, thus understanding the military organizational structure in regards to training and management. The government will assess capabilities of what type of work has your company performed in the past in support of the same or similar requirements. What specific technical skills does your company possess to ensure you can perform all the tasks outlined in the PWS successfully? A secret facility clearance is required. The government will start the procurement process for a follow-on contract upon the receipt of the requirement package. Upon receipt of the requirement package, the government will issue a sources sought notice. This concludes the briefing for Fort Gordon. Next slide.
All right, thank you so much. Fort Benning, you're up next.
Mr. Hutchins, you're muted, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had to mute on. Good morning. My name is Shannon Hutchins, and I will be discussing with you the next 6 requirements for Fort Benning. The first one I will discuss with you is the base operations requirement. MICC Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for the requirement. The intention is to procure services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered if 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient enough to support a set aside. Fort Benning and the Maneuver Center of Excellence provide agile, trained, adaptive, and ready soldiers and leaders for an army at war while developing future requirements for the individual soldier and maneuver force and providing world-class life for our soldiers and army families. Fort Benning services a total average daily population of 103,000 and maintains 2,300 buildings totaling nearly 19 square feet, including 27 square feet of paved areas, roads, parking, taxiways, aprons, runways, sidewalks, and bridges. The base ops contract will provide overall management, supervision, personnel, labor, and general and specialized equipment to operate and maintain and repair real property facilities, including buildings and structures and roads and grounds in accordance with MCOM enterprise-based operations and the performance work statement. The government will be accessing capabilities for the following: 1, facility engineering service management; 2, grounds maintenance, which consists primarily of erosion and control services. The partner shall inspect, service, and maintain grounds of Fort Benning. The work shall include scheduling, performance of maintenance of berms, repair erosion, operating the compost site, plowing, jump fields, degrading ditches, debris removal, provision of wood chips and missile-free sand and associated work. 3, facilities maintenance vertical. The partner shall inspect, repair, and maintain all existing buildings, structures, and their components listed in TEA 0001. The contractor shall provide sustainment of vertical facilities such as buildings and all utility plant services with the demarcation line excluding Army family housing. 4, facilities maintenance horizontal. The partner shall perform maintenance and repair surface areas including asphalt, airfields, pavement, and cement, concrete pavements, roadways, parking lots, trails, shoulders, culverts, gravel and earth surfaces, bridges and associated structures, and apparatuses, range camps, and outlying areas and associated structures at Fort Benning and Alabama. 5, Army cemetery operations. The partner shall provide services necessary to operate and maintain the main post cemetery located on the main post of Fort Benning, Georgia, as well as other remote and historical locations as identified in the TE 0001 cemetery locations. The contractor shall perform administrative duties, arrange for process interments, and prepare for special ceremonies, open and close main post cemetery, perform maintenance, and perform all tasks as specified in the DA PAM 290-5 in the Army Regulation 290-5 in the Army cemeteries referenced in Section A 7.2. Work to be performed on this contract is also categorized into functional areas. Functional areas under this contract include buildings and structures, dining, facility, equipment, maintenance, utility systems operation and maintenance, HVAC systems operation and maintenance, ground maintenance, surface area maintenance, material recycle, facility operation and maintenance, self-help services, remote camp operation, maintenance and support, range maintenance, cemetery services, and lastly, chiller and maintenance repair. One of the concerns for the government is before this action is awarded, the government will require a 60-day phase period. The tentative solicitation date for this requirement is in December with a tentative award date in July of 2020. So the tentative solicitation date, December of 2023, and the tentative award date is July of 2024. This concludes this requirement. Next slide, please. The next slide we'll be talking about today is the installation laundry services. The MICC Fort Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Army Sustainment Command Logistics Readiness Center at Fort Benning. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis, utilizing best value, lowest price technically acceptable. A small business set-aside will be considered if 2 or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with the information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor shall provide pickup and delivery at designated locations, washing, drying, pressing, packing, drop-off, and direct interchange services for the government-owned items for cleaning. The contractor shall provide laundry and dry cleaning, contract service to clean and press textiles, garments, linens, OCIE, and other fabrics for active and reserve components on a direct reimbursable basis and in direct support of organizational health and sanitation requirements and meal preparation attire as it relates to life, health, and safety. There are no critical requirements. They are specifically identified, and in the past, we've had no issues with this contract. The tentative solicitation date is December of 2023, and the tentative award date is July of 2024. This concludes this slide. Next slide, please. Okay. The next requirement we will be discussing is the firepower requirement, the MEPD consulting. The MICC Fort Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Maneuver Capabilities Development and Integration Directorate Soldier Requirements Division Lethality Branch Firepower Team Requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. This requirement will be an 8A, competitive AA set aside. The contractor shall provide all personnel, equipment, supplies, facilities, transportation, tools, materials, and other items and non-personnel services necessary to perform experience capability developer contract support as defined in the PWS, except for those items specified as government furnished properties and services. The MCD serves as the AFC and FCC developer for movement and maneuver ground combat and force modernization integrator for all U.S. Army lethal close combat light weapon systems, ammunition, and their associated fire control and equipment. The branch is comprised of two sections. Small Arms Section, which is responsible for the U.S. Army Small Arms Weapons and Ammunition, and Firepower Section, which is responsible for dismounted infantry weapons, i.e. mortars, close combat missiles and rockets, munitions, targeting, and mobile enablers, non-formation specific weapons, and lethal unmanned systems. The MCD lethality branch mission is to determine and establish requirements and priorities and to maintain active involvement in weapon system, munitions, and enabler development, test and evaluation, basis of issue, acquisition and fielding, sustainment, and product improvement. Additionally, the lethality branch executes staff interface coordination and liaison with SRD, ECD staff and subordinate material branches, robotics and autonomous systems, operational energy, soldier systems, maneuver battle lab, operations and training, sniper school, the 75th Regiment, Forces Command, and Army Material Command. This mission requires intensive interaction with combat capabilities, combat development command, Army Test Evaluation Command, Department of the Army, Program Executive's Office, Industry, Operating Force, MATCHCOMs, Marines, Air Force, to include several acquisition communities. The government will be looking into the following. All support contractors require a minimum secret NACLC security clearance with the following training to effectively perform their duties. AT level 1 training, anti-terrorism operations security, information security, information technology certification, and general protection security policies and procedures, AT awareness training for contractor personnel traveling overseas, iWatch training, Army training certification tracking systems registration, ATCTS DoD cyber awareness, operation security training, and handling of all access to classified information, threat awareness reporting program. The following are the prerequisites to apply to support contractors. Defense Acquisitions University Capability Developer Level 1 qualification. Serve as a leader with combat arms military experience with a minimum of 6 years of active duty service in combat arms or special operation units. Proven extensive knowledge, minimum of 4 years experience with equipment, enabler, weapon, or ammunition in assigned task areas. First-hand expert knowledge of previous within the last 15 years and current DoD weapons, ammunition enablers. Proven ability to planning, coordinate, and implement weapons and enabler capabilities based on programs that support the acquisition level of a variety of material solutions in combat forces. In-depth knowledge of current future weapon systems to include, but not limited to, doctrine, tactics, and techniques of employment. Extensive knowledge of current and evolving structures is desired, as well as an understanding of the joint capabilities, integration, and development system documentation system. Proven ability to develop initial capability documents, capability development documents, and annex of updates and for upgrades of incremental technology improvements, monitoring and maintaining future during research, development, testing, and evaluation, as well as procurement phases. Proven ability to prepare and deliver technical and status briefings, oral and written, to senior leaders up to the Secretary of the Army for the United States forces, allies, and foreign armed services, U.S. military and defense industry technology developments affecting combat arms, weapons, equipment, clothing, and vehicles. Also, a proven ability to coordinate, consolidate, and review MCDID written documentation submissions for higher headquarters and outside agencies, i.e. AMC. The following concerns for this requirement: the government's primary concern for the company's ability to fill needed capability developer positions while maintaining the level of expertise required to provide effective capability developers. Learning the complex systems in this portfolio and completing all of the required trainings for these positions can take months, resulting in missed deadlines and loss of productivity. Maintaining incumbent contractors' requirements. The tentative solicitation date is February to March of 2024, and the tentative award date of 1 September of 2024. This concludes this slide. Next slide, please. Our next requirement.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hutchins, can you confirm what contract number that was? I think we may have been on the wrong slide. Our pop didn't match what you were briefing.
Let's see. What was that
what
slide?
Was the name of that requirement, please?
So the name of the requirement, it's the fire the matches the contract is W911 SF 21 C0008. That's for firepower support.
Yes, sir. So are you going to elevator maintenance repair now?
Yes, slide 4. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning again. The next requirement I'm here to discuss is the elevator installation elevator maintenance requirement. The MICC Fort Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for Army Material Command Directorate of Public Works, MCOM at Fort Benning requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis, utilizing best value, lowest price technically acceptable. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor shall provide furnishing all plant, labor, equipment, supplies, and materials in performing all operations necessary for inspection, maintenance, and repair of all elevators, dumbwaiters, and jump tower hoist systems, to include Martin Army Community Hospital. We don't have, there are no critical capabilities that need to be identified. And in the past, we've had no issues with this action. The tentative solicitation date is May of 2023, with an award sometime in September 2023. This concludes this slide. Next slide, please. The next requirement we'll be discussing is for the ground maintenance requirement for MECCOM. The MICC Fort Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for the residential enhancements for the Martin Army Community Hospital grounds maintenance. The requirement, a small business set aside will be considered if 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable with information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor should support all the areas surrounding Martin Army Community Hospital, to include a hospital clinic building, 9250, the central utility plant building, 9251, the hazardous material storage building, 9252, the ambulance garage building, 9253, the storm water maintenance structure, 9254, the staff parking garage, M9250, and the visitor parking garage, M9251 for Fort Benning. The contractor responsible for all the cleanup of the work site. Public use areas will be cleaned up at the end of each daily work period, and contractor personnel will move to new work areas. All work areas will be cleaned before the project is considered complete. Contractors shall provide their own waste disposal. The landscape and the site development for the Fort Benning Martin Army Community Hospital has seamlessly blended architecture and hardscape in existing landscape of the site, distributing a small footprint on the land as possible. Regional materials were to be used throughout the landscape and hardscape to retain the positive benefits of established landscape and site drainage. Grading needs to be minimalized to save much of the existing woodland as possible to provide sustainable and an attractive healing environment. The existing vegetation needs to be augmented with new planting intended to create a stylized southern Piedmont landscape, grading shade with bursts of color and variety of texture. The bioswales and other sustainable solutions need to be maintained with storm water basement requirements and create unique plant and animal habitats and provide innovation and design to enhance the associated LEED credits. In the past, for this requirement, there have been recorded multiple incidents of damage to lawnmowers to the outstall pedestal and area fencing. The tentative solicitation date for this requirement is April 2024, and the tentative award date is 30 September 2024. This concludes this requirement. Next slide, please. And finally, our last slide is the camp rural refuse collection. The MICC Fort Benning Contracting Office will be procuring services for the Army Material Command, Directorate of Public Works, MCOM, and Fort Benning requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis using the best value, lowest price, technically acceptable. A small business set aside will be considered if two or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support set aside. The contractor shall provide all containers and vehicles as required and necessary for the performance of all collection, transportation, and disposal of refuse and waste generated at Camp Miro, Dahlonega, Georgia, areas which regularly generate solid waste, which include but not limited to barracks, administrative office, headquarters, warehouses, and other buildings, dining facilities, medical facilities, training areas, and other buildings are required as ordered. There are no specific critical requirements identified for this requirement, and there have been no issues in the past on this requirement. The tentative solicitation date is June of 2023, with a tentative award date of December of 2023. And that concludes this slide.
Thank you. Next slide. Up next is Fort Leonard Wood. Fort Leonard Wood, floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Eric Cheney. I'm the Business Operations Division Chief for the MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office in Missouri. The MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office will be procuring services for the MCOM refuse services requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided two or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support the set aside. The contractor shall support the MCOM mission by providing refuse collection and disposal services to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and Lake of the Ozarks Recreation Area in Lynn Creek, Missouri. This contract will also provide auxiliary services to include operating the Fort Leonard Wood Recycling Center, the compost clean fill area, and the brush stump area, facilitating e-waste recycling events and recycling or disposing of used oil. Items of note for this contract include the contractor will be required to develop a contingency plan to provide for continuing service per these specifications in the event the employee's absence, strikes, or work stoppages, and this contract does include government furnished property. The revised milestones for this requirement is a solicitation date of 31 July 2023 with a forecast award date of 25 September 2023. And this will be a firm fixed price, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity services contract with a base plus 4 option years, and it'll be an 8A competitive set aside. Next slide. The MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office will be procuring services for the TRADOC's Analytical Task Support requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided two or more businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. The contract will support services for the Maneuver Support Center of Excellence to execute its mission to analyze, provide recommendations, and develop courses of action to integrate counter-improved explosive device and explosive hazard considerations across the warfighting functions, supporting the Army of 2025. The contractor shall review, conduct research, analyze, provide supporting documents, and make recommendations and provide written assessments on counter-improved explosive device material and non-material processes, concepts, strategies, and counter-improved explosive device doctrine. Services include participation in select counter-improved explosive device working groups and other forums. Items of note for this contract include a senior military analyst that meets the Article 72 SOFA requirements for contractors performing senior military analyst duties, a knowledge manager / web developer that has Dreamweaver training. Contractor personnel may be required to perform travel to locations within the continental United States and outside of the continental United States to carry out the requirements of this contract. The revised file milestones for this is a solicitation date of 5 June 2023 with a forecast award date of 30 September 2023. It'll be a firm fixed price contract with a base plus 4 option years, and the set aside is yet to be determined. Next slide, please. This slide shows the MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office procurement for the Maneuver Sport Battle Lab Live Prototype Assessment. The government has determined there's no longer a need for this requirement, and it will not be solicited. Next slide, please. So the MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office will be procuring services for the LRC laundry requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. The contractor shall operate and manage the laundry function for pickup services at unit locations, laundering, dry cleaning, warehousing, delivery. The contractor shall operate a weekly exchange of various linen at locations across Fort Leonard Wood for soldiers residing in barracks. Other articles for laundering will be scheduled services for pickup and delivery. Items of note on this contract would be that the laundering will take place off-site at the contractor's facility. The contractor will be responsible for GFP, government furnished property. There will be a 30-day phase-in, phase-out period if needed. The revised milestones is a solicitation date of 17 April 2023, a forecasted award date of 24 April 2024. This will be a firm fixed price contract with a base plus 4 option years, and it'll be a small business set aside. Next slide. Okay. The MICC Fort Leonard Wood Contracting Office will be procuring services for the TRADOC's hazardous equipment maintenance requirement. The intention is to procure these services on a competitive basis. A small business set aside will be considered provided 2 or more small businesses are deemed capable to perform the requirement with information sufficient to support a set aside. Contractor shall provide maintenance support on the Scott's, Draeger, MSA, and Spyron scuba components to meet all required safety guidelines. Contractor shall provide maintenance support for the multi-gas monitor, the multi-ray, on a biannual, annual, and as required to meet the operating guidelines. Revised milestones for this action is a solicitation date of 14 March 2023 with a forecasted award date of 15 May 2023. It'll be a firm fixed price contract with a base plus 4 option years, and it'll be set aside for small business. This concludes the briefing for Fort Leonard Wood. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so thank you, West Point, Fort Gordon, Fort Benning, and Fort Leonard Wood. So we now have time to entertain a couple of questions from the chat. I'll pull those off. You can give me a second. Okay, I did want to take this time to mention that you did hear the presenters, several presenters mentioned the set aside will be considered provided to or more contractors respond and are deemed capable, or something to that effect. It's important that you respond and send, when we send those sources sought out, the small business professionals, we're here to support you. We fight to ensure that we maximize utilization of small business, but we do need your help. So when those sources sought, you see them, we are definitely looking at those responses because they give us the ammunition we need to support small business set-asides. There was a question, will anyone be covering requirements from INSCOM, Belvoir MICC office? And it says we're interested in opportunities at Aberdeen Proving Ground. So for our briefing, MICC Belvoir will be briefing tomorrow. However, I'm going to post and I'm going to make an announcement real quick so you can see this information. But Aberdeen Proving Ground, they're going to have their APBI from 25 to 27 April, and their announcement is in sam.gov. So I recommend that you if you're looking for opportunities at Aberdeen Proving Ground, I would recommend that you sign up for their APBI. At the same time, there's also other APBIs that are going to be going on later. So I would definitely monitor sam.gov. ASC is having one. I saw a few other ones happening. So I would recommend that you look at those if you're looking at a particular location, which we may not cover. Okay, there was also a question about Unison Marketplace, and are all of them reverse auction? So that gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about Unison. So for a lot of our, not all, but some of our requirements, particularly if they're simple supply, simple services below the SAT, we use unison.com. So it's a reverse auction tool, and Unison, that's the contractor that won that RFP to host that. And basically you post a requirement in there. Our customers will post a requirement in there, that's small business set aside, and you will have the opportunity to look at it, see what the price currently is for it. And if you want to provide a lower price, you can post it right in there. And it works kind of like eBay, but backwards. So we've had a lot of success with that and savings for the government, and also actions that are above 25,000 still get posted to sam.gov. The system does do a synopsis for those. So if you're not familiar with that system, I recommend you take a look at it, because we do have a lot of simplified type acquisitions, and it's a good way for a small business starting out to kind of build actions, do actions with the government. Another one was, can you provide information regarding the current status of IT services contract for Fort Gordon? It's a little difficult without contracts information, so it's helpful to get the contract information. I believe, Sherilyn, do you have any details that you can provide regarding IT services at Fort Gordon? IT services contract? Are you familiar with that?
Currently, we do not have any IT services contract that will be coming out. Do they have like a solicitation number that they have in mind?
They didn't provide it. So for the contractor that asked that question, if you go to our website, the MICC website, and then you go to contact a small business professional, reach out to the Fort Gordon person, small business professional covering that area. And if you can provide a contracting number, they can research that a little bit further And also, if you have any capability package or anything like that that you would like to provide to them, they can ensure that our contracting officers, get those. Okay, there was questions about Fort Bragg, so we'll answer your questions, but we don't have our personnel here from Fort Bragg because that was yesterday's briefing. So we'll answer your question, but the questions that we can answer live today are the ones that are for FDO Eustis offices. All right, another question was requested, and it's not clear to me, but they did provide a contract number 912492 Charlie 0002. So that is Fort Gordon. So same thing, if you reach out to the Fort Gordon small business professional, they'll be able to provide you additional details. Particularly, you mentioned you're an 8A contractor, so it'd be good for you to meet with that small business professional and give them a copy of your capability package so that we can share that with our contracting officers for any acquisitions that may be coming out. Okay, there were several questions on MEPD. That was slide 79. If you could go to slide 79 real quick. So there was an error on this slide, and it was the title. So I believe it was fire support. Is that correct? Was that the title? Was that supposed to be the title for that one? Slide 77.
Yes, yes, that's firepower support. Yes.
Firepower support. So we apologize for that. We'll make that correction when we post the slides. Okay, then there was also information or questions on the CCOE I-test contract. That was for Fort Gordon, I believe, covers CCOE. I don't know if Sherilyn or Simone have any information regarding CCOE I-test contract.
I mean, we do have a CCOE I-test contract. What is the question?
They're just asking, can you provide any information? I don't know if that one's set or if solicitation has been issued on that one recently.
That contract, it was awarded in FY22.
Okay, so that contract, if it was awarded in FY22, it probably wasn't brief because it won't be coming out for a while. But if you want to find additional information, you can contact your Fort Gordon small business professional, and they can give you additional details such as expiration date, that type of stuff. The other thing I would recommend is that if you have the actual contract number, you can always post that in the FPDS site that I mentioned before. You just post it without dashes, and it'll give you all of the information as far as the current dollars, how many people proposed on the last go around, that type of thing, which is really helpful for you planning forward if you decide that you want to go after that action when it comes out for recompete. Okay, there was another question on slide 77. Could you go to slide 77, please? Did or does the base op replace the MCOE MATOC? That would be, I believe, Shannon or Jason. Would you be able to answer that question?
Hey, this is Jason. No, it does not.
No, it does not. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, and there was somebody also that asked, can we show that slide again? So we'll leave it on for a few seconds so that you can look at it. Okay, there was a question, can you provide the Unison email? There's a Unison website that has all of the information. It is www.unison.com. So, okay, is there a name change? Okay, There was a question about the 9 Army installation changing their names. Or Bragg mentioned 2023 as their name change. Can you share the others? Okay, that we don't have that information readily available at this time, but we'll answer it at a later time. I know that they didn't have a specific date, but I know Fort Hood was changing their name to Cavazos, and some of the other directors or commanders have spoken about some of the changes, but we'll research that further and provide you the information as we know it. Okay, there's a lot of questions coming, so please bear with me. Okay, there was a question about what kind of analytical support is needed and what small business needs to be eligible to apply for the same. Not exactly sure what that question means. In general, when it comes to looking at capabilities, right, we, the small business professionals, review sources sought before they go out to ensure that we're asking the questions that we need to ask and that we're not asking for everything. So that's something that we've implemented at the MICC to help reduce on the amount of questions or information that is asked. So we're trying to limit that to the minimum information needed. I can tell you that your responses, we do look at them, and those do help us identify if there's small business capability to do a requirement. And in many cases, we have converted requirements that were previously done unrestrictive to small business set-asides, or even some to socioeconomic set-asides. So definitely respond to those, and keep in mind that with the change to the FAR Clause 5219-14, when it comes to limitations on subcontracting, there's the ability to subcontract to other small business or other similarly situated entities, depending on the set-aside, without violating the limitations on subcontracting. Most of them for services are the 50%. All right, so okay, is Mission Command Training Program RFP really set to be released June 23? Does any of the contracting officers or contracting professionals online have any information on that one?
Good morning, or well, it's good afternoon here on the East Coast. GovWin isn't really a good, accurate website. And in fact, we will not respond to any of their inquiries. I will tell you this, the acquisition strategy plan are in process to go to DASAP for approval, and the source selection plan and RFP will follow quickly after. So I would have more confidence in a late summer RFP release than whatever GovWin is estimating.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And the person that asked, can they email their SPP to get more information? Yes, they're there to provide assistance. So when you have questions related to acquisitions that are upcoming, go ahead and contact them, and they should be able to help. If they have, as long as they have the information and it's one of our requirements, we should be able to find out more information on that. All right. And the person that says they're a distributor for products, Unison, we buy a lot of supplies, simple supplies under the SAT. That's the SAT Simplified Acquisition Threshold, $250,000. We do buy a lot of supplies through Unison, so I recommend taking a look at that website for those. And I think that's all our questions for now. And bear with me, I have like 20 different things open on my end. So thank you so much. All questions that we received so far were answered. Any questions that we didn't answer live, they will be captured and answered and posted to sam.gov. You may also provide written questions to us via email after this event. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes day 3 of the 2023 MICC APBI. Day 4 begins tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time and will include briefing on contract requirements from the Field Directorate Office, Fort Sam Houston, Texas. If you have registered for additional days of this APBI, each of you should have received an invitation for each day of the APBI. Be sure to join us again tomorrow to learn more about contracting opportunities with the MICC and the Army. We hope that you find the information presented this week useful and it helps position your company for success. Don't forget, all requirements briefed today will be sent to event attendees at the end of the week's event, and a full 3-year detailed acquisition forecast will be posted to sam.gov. Please let us know how we did. Don't forget to take the short survey included in the chat. Your feedback is important to us. Maintaining transparency, increasing competition, and increasing the defense industrial base remains a MICC priority. People first, winning matters, live the legacy. Thank you and have a great rest of the afternoon.